Hello friends, welcome to our channel. Let's dive into episode 4. Job has spoken, his friends have spoken, and still, heaven is silent. Then in Job 38, the silence breaks. Not with whispers, not with explanations, but with a storm. Out of the whirlwind, God answers. The wind howls around Job. Dust rises from the ground, swirling in the chaos. His heart pounds. He wanted God to speak, but he did not expect this. This is no gentle reply. This is not a comforting pat on the back. This is the voice of the Creator, breaking through human pain with eternal perspective. Job 38, 1 and 2. Then the Lord spoke to Job out of the storm. He said, "Who is this that obscures my plans with words without knowledge? Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me if you understand. Who marked off its dimensions? Surely you know." Job 38, 4-5. God begins not with answers, but with questions, over 70 questions, not to humiliate Job, but to reframe him, to remind him, you are not God, and you don't have to be. Job 38, 8-11. Who shut up the sea behind doors when it burst forth from the womb? When I said, this far you may come and no farther, here is where your proud waves halt. God points to the sea, the raging, uncontrollable force of nature. To Job, it looked like chaos. But to God, it was set within limits. It could only go so far. Sometimes life feels like drowning in waves. But God says, I set boundaries. Even storms have limits. Even your suffering has an end point. Job 38, 31-33. Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Can you loosen Orion's belt? Can you bring forth the constellations in their seasons or lead out the bear with its cubs? God turns Job's gaze upward. The stars, beyond Job's reach, are held by God's hands. What Job cannot even touch, God commands. We ask, Lord, why don't you explain? And God replies, look at the heavens. If I can order galaxies, can I not order your life? Think of a child in surgery. The child cries, why is this happening? The parent cannot explain every medical detail. It would overwhelm. Instead, the parent says, trust me, this is for your good. In the same way, God doesn't give Job a medical textbook of the universe. He simply says, trust me, I am God and I am good. Job 39, 19-20. Do you give the horse its strength or clothe its neck with a flowing mane? Do you make it leap like a locust, striking terror with its proud snorting? The war horse, majestic, terrifying, powerful. God delights in its untamed strength. Job cannot control it, but God does. God is saying, you cannot control the chaos, but I can. You can't tame life's wild moments, but they are not wild for me. The Behemoth and Leviathan. Job 10:15. Look at Behemoth, which I create along with you. Job 41, 1. Can you pull in Leviathan with a fishhook or tie its tongue with a rope? God describes many creatures, uncontrollable, unstoppable. To Job, they would inspire fear. To God, they are simple part of his creation. Why does God mention them? To show Job, even the most terrifying powers are no threat to me. Reflection and application. Job wanted clarity. God gave him something better: perspective. Clarity explains the moment. Perspective, lift your eyes to eternity. Isaiah 55, 8-9. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. The lesson? Our limited minds can't grasp God's ways, and that's okay, because trust in His character is greater than clarity in His plan. Pause and think about this. If you could ask God one why question right now, what would it be? Share it in the comments. I'd love to see what's on your heart today. Job demanded an explanation. God gave a revelation of Himself. The real answer to suffering is not information, it's presence. It's not knowing all the details, but knowing the one who holds the details. Job came looking for answers. He found something better. The God who is bigger than the storm, bigger than the questions, bigger than the pain. Key lesson: our limited minds can't grasp God's ways. Takeaway number 4, trust character over clarity. You may not understand what God is doing, but you can always trust who He is. Which part of God's speech to Job spoke to you most? The seas, the stars, the wild animals, or the Leviathan? Drop your answer in the comments. I'd love to hear which truth gave you strength. Job discovered that God's presence is greater than his explanations, and the same is true for us. If this episode encouraged you, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to follow Job's journey to restoration. And if you missed the earlier episodes, check the playlist in the description. Start from the beginning and experience the full story. God bless. See you next time.